The room was full of chatter and laughter when I walked in holding a tray of freshly baked lemon bars. I had spent hours preparing them. It was Mom's birthday dinner, after all. But the moment I stepped in, all the noise died. Alyssa, my sister-in-law, stood near the kitchen island, arms folded. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. "Why are you here, Harper? We thought you got the hint last time." People shifted awkwardly, pretending to be busy with their drinks. My brother Jason looked at his shoes. My husband, Matt, was nowhere in sight. I didn't say a word. My hands trembled, but I kept them steady. I gently placed the tray on the counter, then slowly looked up at her. "It's Mom's birthday," I said, barely above a whisper. Alyssa let out a cold laugh. "Yeah, and she asked for peace this year, not pity." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just turned around and walked out, leaving behind the dessert, the memories, and whatever part of me still hoped she'd change. I wasn't born into their family, I married into it. But from day one, I tried harder than most daughters ever have to. My name is Harper Lane, and growing up, I had a very small family, just my mom and me. When I married Matt, I was excited to finally be part of something bigger. He had a warm-hearted mother, a quiet but kind father, and a younger sister named Alyssa, who everyone called the glue of the family. I was 24 when we got married, and during those early days, I went out of my way to be the good daughter-in-law. I showed up early for family dinners to help set the table. I remembered everyone's birthdays. I even memorized Alyssa's favorite wine and brought it to Thanksgiving every single year. But it never seemed to be enough. Alyssa always kept me at arm's length. She'd correct how I folded napkins, roll her eyes when I tried to offer parenting advice, even though I had 2 kids and she had none. At first, I thought it was insecurity. Maybe she just felt threatened. So I tried to be kind, patient. I thought, if I keep showing her love, she'll warm up eventually. She never did. At one birthday party, she accidentally spilled red wine all over my white dress. She laughed, saying, "Oh no, you should never wear white to a party unless it's your own." Everyone laughed with her. I smiled too, but I was dying inside. Then there were the whispered comments she'd make under her breath. "Some people just don't have a sense of family, you know?" Or, "Matt really married down, but at least she bakes." At family dinners, she'd rearrange the seating, so I was stuck at the far end, far away from the conversations. She'd exclude me from group chats, then act surprised when I didn't know about a get-together. I told Matt a few times, gently, "Hey, is it just me, or does Alyssa not really like me?" He'd shrug. "She's just a strong personality. You know how she is." And then he'd change the subject. I began to feel like I was invisible in their home, present but not seen, smiling but not welcomed. I became the helper, the background presence, the one who stayed late to do the dishes while Alyssa got praised for arriving with takeout. The worst part? My mother-in-law adored Alyssa, worshipped her, really. Every photo on the wall was of Alyssa at prom, Alyssa at college, Alyssa with a Christmas gift. I once joked about not being photogenic. My mother-in-law replied, "Oh, Alyssa just has that camera-friendly sparkle. You can't fake it." I never told my own mom about how bad it got. She had raised me to be respectful, to always take the high road. So I kept my head down. I played the part. And I kept hoping, somehow, that being good, being kind, would finally be enough. But as the years passed, something settled in my chest. A quiet ache, a knowing. No matter how much I gave, no matter how well I behaved, I would always be the outsider in their story. Until one day, I stopped trying. A week before my mother-in-law's birthday, I texted Alyssa, just to be sure. "Hey, let me know what I can bring to the party." I was thinking lemon bars and maybe a veggie platter. She left me on read. 2 days later, I followed up. "Just checking in. Want to make sure I don't double up on what others are bringing." No response. Then on Thursday, my phone buzzed. It was a group text from my mother-in-law. "Looking forward to seeing everyone Saturday. It'll be casual, just family. No address. No time. Nothing else." I asked Matt, who was scrolling on the couch. Hey, did your mom mention what time the birthday dinner is on Saturday? He paused, looked uncomfortable. Actually, they're doing something small this year. Just siblings and parents. Real tight-knit. I blinked. But I'm your wife. That's family. He didn't meet my eyes. It's not personal. Alyssa said Mom wants to keep things simple. My stomach sank. So, I'm not invited? Matt let out a slow sigh. It's just easier this way. No drama. They don't want things to feel awkward. I didn't cry right away. I didn't even yell. I just nodded. Got it, I said. Then I walked upstairs and sat in our darkened bedroom for over an hour, staring at the blinking cursor on my phone. I reread every message, every unanswered text, every just family plan. On Saturday, I baked the lemon bars anyway. I boxed them carefully and wrapped them with a yellow satin ribbon. I told Matt I was going out to drop something off. He didn't ask where. When I arrived at their house, the lights were glowing through the windows. I could see everyone gathered around the table. Alyssa was laughing. My mother-in-law was holding a glass of wine. Jason and his wife were there. Even their neighbors, the Sawyers, had been invited. But not me. I stood at the door for a full 30 seconds. Then I knocked. Alyssa answered. Her smile dropped the moment she saw me. Why are you here, Harper? I held up the box. Just dropping these off for your mom. She blocked the doorway. Honestly, we might not answer the door next time. You need to get the message. Behind her, I could hear laughter erupting again. They had moved on. I placed the box on the doorstep. Tell her happy birthday for me. Then I walked away. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I didn't check my phone. I just sat in the quiet and let something in me break, and then harden. They didn't want me there. But they were going to notice my absence more than they ever noticed my presence. The next morning, I woke up before Matt. I turned off my usual alarm, the one I set to text his mom good morning like I had for the past 3 years. Then I deleted the draft message altogether. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee. No extra cup for him. No eggs sizzling. No orange juice poured just the way he liked it. I sat at the table, alone, staring out the window. It was quiet, but this time, the quiet didn't feel cold. It felt like mine. I didn't make a dramatic announcement. I didn't cry, or throw things, or demand he pick sides. I just stopped. I stopped texting Alyssa to check in after her appointments. Stopped liking her posts. Stopped remembering her dog's birthday. I went into my contacts and deleted their family group chat. Then I opened my calendar and removed all the reminders I had created. Send flowers to MIL. Alyssa's work event. Jason's anniversary. Gone. When Matt noticed, he didn't say much at first. But by the 3rd day of silence, he asked, "Everything okay?" I nodded. I'm just tired of begging to belong where I'm not wanted. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue. But nothing came out. I didn't wait for him to defend me anymore. That chapter had closed. At work, I stopped leaving early to prep for family dinners. I took on a side project that had been offered to me months ago, one I had declined because it would have cut into family time. That side project turned into a consulting opportunity. Then that turned into a part-time remote gig with better pay than my full-time role. I started spending weekends how I wanted. Long walks. Reading novels I had shelved for years. Buying fresh flowers just for myself, lilies mostly. I liked how they made the whole house smell like summer, even in February. I didn't update anyone. No Instagram story. No Facebook check-in. Just life. Quiet and finally mine. 3 weeks later, Matt walked into the living room holding his phone. My mom asked why you haven't been around. I looked up from my book. You can tell her I've been busy. That would be true. He watched me. You know, it's really hurting them that you're not making an effort. I raised my eyebrow. I made years of effort. This isn't me being petty. This is me stopping the bleeding. For once, he didn't defend them. That silence said everything. By the end of the month, I had unfollowed them all. Not blocked, just quietly disappeared from their view. I didn't send them photos of our kids. I didn't remind Matt to call his mom. I didn't initiate anything. They had made it clear I was invisible. So I became a ghost, not out of pain, but but out of peace. And the more space I created for myself, the more I realized my silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was my power. About 2 months after the birthday incident, I got a random message on LinkedIn. The name didn't ring a bell at first. Rachel Mendez. Her message was short but intriguing. Hi Harper, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm not sure if you remember me, but you helped me during one of the hardest moments of my life. And I never forgot it. I stared at the screen. Rachel Mendez. It took me a moment to place her. Then, it clicked. She was the woman I met outside the ER last winter, sobbing in the waiting area, unable to get information about her grandmother who had been admitted. Her phone had died. The hospital was chaos that night. I was there with my own son, who had a bad asthma flare-up. But while waiting for his medication, I had let Rachel borrow my charger, given her an extra protein bar for my purse, and sat beside her until a nurse finally came out to update her. We never exchanged numbers. I didn't even know her name. I just helped. Now here she was, months later, reaching out to say thank you. I replied, surprised but touched. Wow, Rachel, that night was intense. I'm so glad your grandmother made it through. You didn't need to thank me, but I really appreciate this message. Her next reply stopped me cold. I only found you because I was talking to a mutual connection, Alyssa Lane. I work with her. She was gossiping at the office about how cold her sister-in-law was being lately, so I looked you up out of curiosity. The moment I saw your photo, I realized you're the one who helped me when nobody else did. I stared at the message. I read it again. And again. Rachel, someone Alyssa worked with, had seen through the lies. And not just seen through them, she recognized me for who I really was. Honestly, Rachel wrote in a third message, Alyssa talks about people like they're disposable. She brags about how she keeps her family in check. But you? You are the kindest stranger I've ever met. I just thought you should know the version of you she paints doesn't match the one I met that night. I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, my heart pounding. Not because of the drama, because for the first time in years, someone saw me. Really saw me. Without history, without obligation, without expectation. A week later, my Aunt Bonnie, who lived 3 states away, called me out of the blue. Harper, she said, voice bright, did you know someone mentioned you in their staff newsletter at Westdale Medical? Turns out Rachel had written a short note in their internal bulletin about a woman who reminded her what grace under pressure looks like. She didn't use my full name, just Harper. But Aunt Bonnie put the pieces together, and she called me crying. I'm so proud of you, she said. You deserve to be seen. The irony was, Alyssa probably had no idea that her own bragging at work had opened the door for someone to finally pull back the curtain on who she really was, and who I had always been. For the first time in a long, long while, I didn't feel like I was on the outside. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. It started with a text from Matt's mom. Hey Harper, 2 hearts, let's reset, okay? Life's too short for tension. We'd love to see you soon. I stared at the message, blank-faced. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just, let's reset. A few hours later, Jason sent me a voice memo. Hey, Harper. Alyssa said things kinda got out of hand. She's sorry if feelings were hurt. Mom really wants the family back together, especially with the holidays coming up. Sorry if feelings were hurt. Translation. We're not sorry we did it. We're sorry you noticed. 2 days after that, I got a DM from Alyssa herself. I hadn't heard from her directly in months. Can we move past all this? It's exhausting. I don't want drama between us. Mom keeps asking why you're being distant. Maybe we could all talk it out. And then, the kicker. Also, Rachel from my job mentioned you two had some weird connection. Can you maybe ask her to cool it? She's making things uncomfortable for me at work. There it was. Not concern. Not remorse. Just panic. Image management. Control. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they lost control of the narrative, and now people outside the family were asking questions they didn't want to answer. Matt came home from work that night and found me scrolling through my phone in silence. Mom said you're ignoring everyone, he said. She's trying, Harper. I met his gaze calmly. No, She's reacting. That's different. He looked away. They don't know what they did wrong. I let out a short laugh, not mean, just tired. That's because they never listened when I told them. Matt was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed. I think they just want things back to normal. I closed my phone. They don't get to define normal anymore. That weekend, Alyssa invited us to a low-key brunch at her place. No pressure. Just family. A chance to reconnect. We didn't go. I spent that Sunday with my kids at a new sculpture park downtown. We had ice cream, ran through fountains, and watched a man play violin under a gazebo. I posted one photo online. Just the kids, laughing, drenched in sun and joy. Alyssa liked it. She didn't comment. But later that night, she sent another message. So, I guess this is how it's gonna be now. I didn't reply. Because yes, this is how it's gonna be now. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when I received the voicemail. I was cleaning out the closet when my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something told me to listen. The voice on the other end was soft, clear, and emotional. Hi, Harper. It's Rachel. I hope this isn't weird, but I needed to say this out loud. I paused what I was doing and sat on the floor, the phone cradled against my ear. I've thought about you a lot since that night at the hospital. I was falling apart. I was sleep-deprived, scared, completely alone. And then there you were. You didn't ask for attention. You didn't take a selfie or say something performative. You just sat with me. Quietly. Calmly. Like you knew exactly how to hold space for someone else's fear. There was a small silence. I could hear her breath catch. Most people don't do that. And honestly, when I found out you were that Harper, the one Alyssa always puts down at work, I felt physically sick. Because she's wrong about you. So wrong. I closed my eyes, pressing the phone tighter to my ear. You didn't just help me that night. You reminded me what compassion looks like. You reminded me that the most powerful people are the ones who don't need to prove it. Her voice cracked at the end. Thank you. For everything you didn't even know you gave me. She hung up. I sat there in stunned silence. And then, without warning, tears filled my eyes. Not the bitter kind. Not the kind that ache. The kind that release. The kind that say, you're seen. You matter. You made a difference. That night, I wrote Rachel back. Not to say much, just a few words. You have no idea how much your message meant. Thank you for giving me something they never did, the truth. She replied within seconds. Sometimes the people outside the room are the first ones to notice the light inside it. That line stayed with me for days. I walked differently after that. Not taller, just freer. Like I no longer needed permission to take up space in my own story. Matt noticed too. He began asking me more questions. Paying closer attention. I could feel the guilt in him rising, not just for what they did, but for the years he didn't stand beside me. One evening, we were folding laundry when he said quietly, I think Alyssa's afraid of you now. I looked at him, confused. What? He shrugged. You used to chase their approval. Now you don't even care. And they don't know what to do with that. Especially Alyssa. She's not used to losing control of people. I didn't respond right away. But deep down, he was right. Alyssa didn't fear me in the way people fear someone aggressive. She feared me because I no longer needed her validation. Because I had proven to others, to myself, that I had value all along. Because kindness, when it's unshakable, becomes the most intimidating form of power. It was early November when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. The kids were at a friend's house, and Matt had gone to the store. I wiped my hands on a kitchen towel and opened the door. There she was. Alyssa. Standing on my front porch in a camel coat, makeup perfectly done, hair pulled back like she'd just walked out of a catalog. But her eyes, they gave her away. There was a flicker of something I had never seen in her before. Hesitation. Hey, she said, her voice thinner than usual. Can we talk? I didn't move. Didn't invite her in. She fidgeted with the strap of her purse. Look, I know we've both said and done things. I raised my hand gently. Alyssa, I haven't said anything. That's the problem. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I took a breath and stepped outside, closing the door behind me. Not to be rude, but to make it clear, this conversation wasn't going inside my peace. She cleared her throat. I think this has gotten out of hand. We're family, and I don't want things to be weird forever. Mom's asking about you. Jason, too. Can we just move past it? I looked at her calmly. She was shifting in place like she was waiting for the usual version of me, the quiet, compliant Harper, to say, "It's okay, I forgive you." But I didn't say that. I gave her a small smile. Gentle.
Clear.
Unshakable.
No.
Her eyes widened. What?
No, Alyssa.
I'm not coming back into something that never had room for me to begin with. I'm not angry. I'm just done. She opened her mouth again, trying to process the power shift. You can't just freeze everyone out. I'm not freezing anyone out. I'm choosing warmth somewhere else. Her voice started rising, defensive. So that's it? You think you're better than us now? I tilted my head slightly.
No.
I just finally know I'm not less. There was a long silence. She looked down at her shoes, then back up at me. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel smug. I just felt at peace. I gave her a small nod. Take care of yourself, Alyssa. Then I stepped back inside and closed the door behind me. Quietly. No slamming. No yelling. Just closure. People think the loudest revenge is the most powerful. It's not. The most powerful thing you can do is walk away and mean it. No speech. No final warning. Just your absence where they once expected your obedience. For years, I bet myself to fit into a space that was never shaped for me. I tried to be softer, smaller, more pleasing, all to be accepted by people who never intended to accept me. But the moment I stopped asking for permission, everything changed. Not because they changed, but because I did. If you're listening to this and you've been the outsider in someone else's story, let me say this clearly. You were never the problem. You were just too real for people who pretend. Too honest for people who survive on masks. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is leave the table when respect is no longer being served. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them be afraid of your peace. Because once they realize they can no longer control you with cruelty, that's when they finally understand your silence was never weakness. It was power.